Welcome to another episode of the Writer's Game podcast, where we help you magnify your voice and monetize your message. I am your host, Kyle King, 7-time best-selling author and CEO.
Welcome to another episode of the Writer's Game podcast.
We got other sound in the background. We don't know what that's about, but it's okay because it's not about me tonight. It's about Miss Michelle Bluitt. She is, I know we have bios, but she is absolutely amazing. This woman is a light that brings so much opportunity to underserved areas and is a force in the educational industry. Somebody that is getting ready to shake up your world tonight because she's already doing it in so many different school systems, so many different lives. She is an entrepreneur, coach, talk show host, and she is committed to helping others create the life and business of their dreams through her talk show and all of the different things that she's going to be talking to you tonight. Michelle, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Cal, I think that was like the best bio yet. I need everyone to run that,
We got you. We got you. So, before we get started, I know we have an agenda. I know we have so much to talk about tonight, but, a question that I always like to ask is, obviously I'm a storyteller. What was the climax of your story and the turning point that helped you get to the person that you are today?
The climax of my story. Up until this point, because I feel like we haven't, I'm still on the journey. The best is still yet to come. But I would say up until this point, my climax was the failure that I had in my first business. And so I'm pretty transparent with it. But I started my first business 2 weeks after graduating college. And this was like years ago, before like entrepreneurship was like the sexy thing, before I even had an Instagram. So kind of dating myself. But yeah, so I took that leap and went into entrepreneurship, started the business full time. But several years later, after growing it and having success, we went through a $40,000 loss in that business. And when I say it hit, and it hit hard, I always say it's like, it was obviously a financial hit, but also to my ego. At the time I was like in my mid 20s, and there was like this whole spiral and this whole loop of, if Benet, my business, is a failure, does that mean Blue is a failure? And with me starting the business immediately after college, so much of my business was my identity.
Of course.
That's what people knew me as. And so, again, if I didn't have this, who was I? And it was so much of a process, so much of a learning of self. I was also living in New York during this time. So, I mean, New York will beat up on you anyways. And going through this whole personal shift, this whole identity shift as well, was definitely so hard, but so needed.
I love that. I love that perspective, because I think a lot of people right now that are going through these identity shifts, it's kind of like you go through a grieving process of who you used to be, how you used to identify yourself. And it's this recreation and renewal period of who you are now. And I guess 3 to 5 words, how would you describe who you are today? And how are you leveraging this story and so many other stories that you've experienced to be able to empower people?
Yeah. One thing that I loved about the bio was you said that, like, you use light. You said that I was a light to many people in their lives. And, that's what I ultimately want to be known as. Like, I want to be known as light. I want to be known as love. I want to be known for the heart and how I show up and how I make people feel, and what they believe is possible after a conversation and an experience with me. And so that's the summary of it all, in my business world, in my family world, in my relationships. Like, that's what I want to stand for and be known for.
No, that's powerful. And in this time that you've been not just an entrepreneur, not just a student of life, but just a person in general, what would you say is the most powerful life lesson that you've learned thus far?
The most powerful life lesson is you get to choose. It's always your choice. Like, how you show up. Will you do something? Will you not? Like, we literally get to create this thing based off of our choices. And that's scary, but it's also so freeing when you know, like, I own this and I get to create it however I want to. Like, there's no limitations, no bounds. And that's like what I get so excited about.
No, I love that. I love that. And in this process of becoming, there's oftentimes, and I know I hear this from clients all the time, I get stuck. When I'm writing my book, I get stuck. When I'm building my business, I get stuck. When I'm trying to create a new relationship or even just a new identity, has there ever been times in your life where you have felt or been stuck, and what have you done to be able to get unstuck?
Oh yeah, I mean, so many times that I felt stuck. And so much of those years in New York, I was there for 3 years, like, and like I said, transitioning out of my business, figuring out what was next. I did have the show, but it wasn't anything, like, it wasn't a firm foundation around it. But I was so stuck in that time. And, I just really, I looked at my life and I realized I was like, this doesn't work for me. I felt like I was failing in every area of my life, Cal. And I was like, this doesn't work for me. So I realized I had to do something different. And I went to work on myself harder than anything else. And that was through like personal development programs, that was through during the pandemic therapy. Like, you are the only thing that can free you.
No, that's good. Talk to me a little
And
bit more about that though. Like, it's people have probably heard it, but it's easier said than done, you know? How do whether it's becoming free or what are some of your, I don't know, top reasons that people are even stuck in the first place?
hmm. So there's so many different things, reasons why we're stuck. I'm gonna say, first, what are we thinking? Our own limiting beliefs. We are just like our own worst critics of life. And we tear ourselves down in ways that we don't even realize. And so that's also something, just like understanding, okay, what am I thinking? What are the quality of my thoughts? Like, what am I feeding myself?
Mm,
And so doing that audit and also being able to, okay, rewrite that story, rewrite that narrative, whatever it is that you're saying. Even for so many writers on the line, like for years, I said that I was bad at writing. And so I set that limitation for myself. And what was I? I spoke that into existence, that I was bad. And so I tried to stay away from it as much as possible, but being able to rewrite my story and say, like, I am good at writing, I enjoy writing. Of course, it may look different than maybe an author or an expert writer, but I can write and I do write well.
mm.
And so even just that little shift in my mind, like, even when I'm in the practice of writing, I show up differently. And so there's so many things around like our thoughts and how we plant those seeds and how they take root and take shape and then manifest into our reality. All we have to do is change what we're saying to ourselves,
That's good.
and we get to shift and shape the world outside of us.
Do affirmations really work? Like, and if they do, I know you're gonna have your own perspective, right?
Mhm.
Because it's not just about saying the affirmation, it's this internal belief inside of yourself to you could be able to show up differently.
Yeah.
So I guess the first question is, do they really work? And if so, because I know you're probably going to say yes, how can people implement affirmations so that they can actually manifest the life that they want?
Yeah. So do affirmations work? I feel like anything works that you believe works.
I like it.
So if you believe affirmations work, then that is your thing. If you don't, then you're not going to find the power in them. But I do feel like there's power in the word, power in the tongue, speaking things into existence. And, so many times, like, we want to act our way into feeling like something. Excuse me, we want to feel our way. We want to feel good before we act.
That's good.
Right? With
Okay.
the affirmations, we are creating and generating that feeling first. Excuse me.
Okay.
I keep getting this confused, but we have to act our way into feeling. So many times we are able to shift our words and shift our realities based off of getting into movement, and affirmations sometimes get us into action. So hopefully that wasn't confusing, because I confused myself for a little while. I was like, hopefully I'm getting this right.
It's all good. And if anybody right now has questions for Michelle throughout this whole conversation, I want you to be able to comment them. I want you to not just comment questions, but comment your reactions. A lot of the things that she's saying is spot on, 110%. And I believe in it. And I want you to be able to not just hear the information, write it down. You got to be able to actually implement it. So she's here to hold you accountable on your journey, because she's definitely an expert in this lane. With, what you were talking about earlier in regards to stories, right? You had to relearn essentially how to rewrite your story. But my question is, where do you believe that your story actually began? When did you become the author of your story?
I think just because I've kind of been sitting in silence a little bit more this year, and just remembering who I am. So much of this journey is not a discovering, it's a remembering, right? And going back to when I was in elementary school, I recently posted a picture of my stories of one of my teachers from elementary school. And she always tells the story of how I wrote a petition against her.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, for clarity. And again, this is elementary school, like 4th grade. I did not write the petition against her, but I did write the petition to get better snacks in after school, right?
There it is.
And, I was able to get people, to come around and actually sign it and join forces. But even then, like my 4th grade, 7-year-old self felt like she had a choice, felt like she had a say in her life and her experience. And so even then, I was writing my story in a sense.
That's good. Michelle, talk to me about how you knew to use your voice so early in life. People go 20, 30, 40, 60 years, 20 years in marriages, 30 years at companies, and they never have the courage and the bravery to use their voice and actually have the courage to stand up for what they believe and what they want. Yeah. Where did you learn this, and how would you impart that into other people listening right now?
Like I said, I think it's a remembering of who you are. So yes, I had that that moxie when I was in 4th grade, but over the years, I can see where it started to chip away, right? Where I started to lose my edge, when I started to doubt myself, when I started to not show up as boldly. And so, it is going back to okay, again, stepping into your personal power, being able to release certain things, being able to, again, get back in control of your story, your narrative. But where did I learn this from? I'm going to have to say Virginia, my mom. I don't even have any other, it's not me at all. But being around, someone who, again, she always felt like she had a say, whether it's writing a letter to a company for dissatisfactory service, or whatever the case may be. Again, she showed up in her power in the way that she could. And I think being able to see that as a young child, she also had, a business. So I was able to be a part of that and see how she handled certain relationships, and how she had a dream. And in so many ways, it was a dream deferred, and so that's, we get to carry the torch. We get to go on from what our parents, our grandparents, what they weren't fully able to tap into. We get to be that light. We get to actually light the flame and be as big and bold as we possibly can in this life now.
Of course. And if anybody's listening right now, be as big and as bold as you possibly can. Not just understand or learn who you are, remember who you are. Remember that you were validated the moment that you were born. The moment that you came into this world, you were validated, and you've already had this identity, these gifts and these skill sets that are going to propel you to the purpose that you've already been designed to go off and propel into. Let's get it. So you have this journey with Blue. You have these businesses, you have all of these different things. What is the most meaningful title that you like to share with people?
My most meaningful title, I guess, is really not even related to business. My most meaningful title, and I guess because my nephew just left, but I love being Auntie Michelle, so that's definitely a highlight. But with the journey with Blue and with the consulting business with the schools, it's all under the same umbrella of, and I never thought I would be like a teacher, but I guess I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
I'm teaching, and there's so much beauty in being a teacher. There's so much like nurturing love and heart that goes into it. And so, no, it doesn't look like me showing up in a classroom every day, but I facilitate that change and inspiration in those students' lives from my work. And the same thing with the journey with Blue. So I guess teacher is the title that like is really like connecting with me the most these days.
If you had, and I ask people this all the time, so it's very interesting to hear people's different answers. If you had 30 seconds, 30 to 60 seconds to teach someone anything that you've been able to learn in life, what would be your last message?
That's a good one. What I teach, it would have to be around like just going for it. Like, how do you go for it? How do you get out of your head and, get out of the doubts and the fears and the limitations and like really step into the abundance and the limitless possibilities that are waiting for us. And so if I could put that in a quick little, something,
Give it to me.
that's what I would package. Oh, God, don't put me on the spot.
You got 60 seconds. Talk to us about how someone can get out of their own way, get unstuck, and gain that clarity that will allow them to impact their business or impact their life.
It starts with the vision. And I think that's so important because when we think about being inspired by something, that's when we are in spirit. And the dreams, the visions that we have, like they have been put in us and it's divine. And it's not something for us to question. It's not for us to even fully understand how it's going to get done, but it is meant for us to bring forth into the world. It's always so much greater than us. There's lives, there's impact that are waiting for you to be obedient to your calling. And so, again, so many times we want to know the how, the when, the where, how is the money going to add up? Who are the connections? And we are really just called to step, to move, to figure out, not necessarily the how, but the what. And we take those steps in obedience. And as we take those steps, opportunities, doors will be open for us. I would say, the corridor principle, the doors will open up for you. And so the universe will conspire in your favor. So trust and believe that you already have everything that you need to bring the gift and the vision that was given to you into reality.
There it is. That was a little bit more than 60 seconds, Michelle, but it's all good. I'm gonna let you.
I don't know how long that was.
No, it's all good. It's all good. My question for you is,
so you did put me on the spot there, Cal.
Definitely. You've had some phenomenal mentors and just relationships in general. When you look at the Danielle Leslies, the Tonya Rapleys, the Maya, when you look at these people, how has your environment had such a influence and allowed you to be able to create some amazing opportunities as well?
Yeah, so thankfully, I've been able to meet so many great people on my journey. I couldn't even really like tell you how this all happens and how some of these relationships are fostered. But I think being able to to be around, people who are creating big and bringing big dreams, big visions, big impact to life and to reality is also just like, okay, we're all human. Like if they can do it, I can do it. And so it just makes it that much more tangible and that more realistic for all of us. Like so many times we are sitting on the sidelines of life looking at other people do these things, wishing that we could. And it's really like we just have to step into the game.
Of course.
Right. And we just have to play the game because it's truly here for the win, for the taking.
In this conversation, I just continue to think about so many times where I've embarked on new journeys, whether it's businesses, personal, different things. And there's always, similar to like when you're running track, there's going to be a hurdle that you run into. There's going to be a barrier. There's going to be a stop sign. And oftentimes these block us, whether that's self-limiting beliefs, whether that's environment, whether that's whatever, the lack of resources. When you think about steps that someone can implement to be able to help them transform as well as overcome barriers and blocks, what would you recommend, I guess, to people that are in a position where they're moving forward, but blocks just continue to come up?
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, the blocks will always be there. I think we all would love a clear path on this journey. But the blocks are always there. And the blocks, also are our greatest teacher. They allow us to grow, to expand, to become the person that our purpose truly requires, that the goal requires us to be. But where I support people with my with coaching is understanding what are those blocks, and instead of those blocks being the dream killer, allowing it to be those refining moments for you. And through my framework, I support people with first getting clear on that vision, because you have to know where you're going. You have to be so sold. You have to feel it, almost taste it of this is what I am putting it on the line for. Right. And so getting clarity in that vision, understanding, again, what is your why? And breaking down, again, what is that impact? What is that purpose? Why me? And that's so important because, like I said, when the money is not there, when the contacts are not there, when there's more no's than yeses, you absolutely need to understand your why, right? That's going to be the driving force to keep you in the game. Also, understanding what are those negative and limiting beliefs, taking a non-judgmental audit of them, and being able to rewrite your story in the moment, in real time, whenever they come up for you. Who do you need to be? Again, who you are now is not going to be the same person that's going to get you to your $1 million goal, that's going to get you to be a published author. And so how do you step into that person now? Thinking about my conversation with Danielle Leslie on my show, I'm like, okay, Danielle, you grew from 0 to like $16 million in 4 years, which is crazy. And she was like, I had to show up, and when I was $0 Danielle, I had to ask myself, what would $1 million Danielle do?
That's good.
Right. Each and every day, and start showing up energetically as that person, not waiting for someone to validate you, not waiting for a stage or platform. Like, you are that now. And then lastly is understanding that you have to act. Like, we have to, like, it's work. And it's massive and consistent action. So many times, like, we get discouraged because we make that post on Instagram or we share our book and, we're not getting the traction. It's like literally everything has to compound. Whatever you're doing is a 10x. You just have to do more of it and allow yourself time for it to grow.
No, I love that. I love what you mentioned in regards to how would that next version of myself operate. I think a lot of times we get so caught up and stuck into the right now that we're not really considering how will my future self operate, and I need to be operating from that space and that level of discipline or inspiration right now. So I do have a question that came up, and Kiana Williams said, I'd be interested to know that the last jump that Michelle took that scared her and how she was able to talk herself into taking that jump.
That's a great question, Kiana. And I love the last jump. So my program is called Take the Leap with Blue, and understanding that, the dream, the vision, everything that you want is just on the other side of that leap. The life and business of your dreams is just on the other side of that leap. And so for me, what was the last leap that I took? I'm going to say, I did the Journey with Blue live in December in Atlanta. And that was the largest event that I had hosted at the time. And it was the largest event and the largest price point. And so that was a leap for me. And I did it in like 2.5 weeks with Thanksgiving being in the middle of that. So being able to support that many women, doing the vision book party, having the conversation, and leading them in coaching was one of the last biggest leaps that I've taken. But when I tell you life is a series of leaps, Kiana, it's not like the one, I wish it was one and then we're done. It's like you're constantly going to be scared. You're constantly going to be challenged to go to the next level, to bring something else to life.
I love that. You talked a little bit about affirmations earlier, and the importance of not just saying them, but believing them and implementing them on a daily basis. What is an affirmation, Michelle, that you wish you heard more often?
That I wish I heard more often. That's a really great one. I don't know if there's one that I wish that I heard more often. One that I always, and this may not be an affirmation, but it is a mantra. It's just saying like, I am so happy and grateful for, right? And staying in that place of gratitude, especially on this journey, especially when things may not seem like, they're going well. And so many times we forget the blessings and the overcoming and, so many times the things that we've prayed for now that are now reality. Like, I am so happy and grateful for is one of those grounding mantras for me. And also being able to, again, speak things into existence. So if there's something that I'm believing in, I already claim it. I am so happy and grateful for this published, this book tour. I'm so happy and grateful for this media partner. And again, aligning with the energy of it and believing that it's already mine. Like, I'm already grateful for it. I'm just waiting for it to, move closer to me, to be attracted closer to me.
Of course. In all of these, I guess, adventures, as we advance ourselves to success, there's certain things that have to be sacrificed as a part of becoming, whether it be the woman, the man, the person in general that you're trying to become. In this person that you stand to be today, and this woman that you stand to be today, what are some of the greatest sacrifices that you've had to make?
Like I said, when I took the leap, I started my first business immediately after college. And all of my friends were going into corporate. And so that means they got a corporate check, and that means they have the money to do all the things, to be able to travel, to buy that, house or that new car. And at the time, I was struggling, figuring it out for years, a lot of years, right? And so I am looking at my peers, my friends who made a different decision, and they're living a more comfortable life. They're able to do a lot of the things that I wanted to do that I just couldn't afford because I was investing in my business, investing in my dream, believing that there was going to be fruit that yielded from this, And so that's hard. That's hard to actually see sometimes, but you do have to, again, be so connected in your why. Be so connected in your vision that, like, yes, those things are nice, but they weren't necessary for me to, they just would have been distractions. They were distractions along the journey that could have discouraged me. But by me staying true to what I wanted to create, now I position myself for exponential growth beyond what a job would have provided for me, and exponential like fulfillment beyond what a job or doing something that I wasn't purposed to do would provide me.
You know, I think that oftentimes, and I hear this all the time, that we as influencers and creators and entrepreneurs, we're so materialistic and we're so surface level that we don't really get the chance to get to know people just on a people level. And I think that's the beautiful thing that I have the opportunity to have with some of my relationships and friends, is that we know each other before the success happened. Outside of Michelle Bluitt, the entrepreneur, the coach, the CEO, the all of these things, who are you behind the scenes?
You know, I think I'm becoming a lot more of a good time than I was before, but I'm always down. Like the adventure still continues, even in my personal life. And that looks like, you know, like I'm all down for skydiving or just like, you know, travel adventures. You know, just kind of night out on the town adventures as well. So, I mean, I like to have a good time. I really just like want to have fun. I'm always down for the adventure. I'm always down for the story. So if like you want that friend to like ride out with you, like that's typically me.
Of course. And I think, you know, the problem that I think a lot of people have is that we just don't ask the question, right? We don't take the time to consider and actually learn and care about people in general. What is a question that you wish more people asked you to get to know you as the person?
Cal, you have some deep questions tonight. Things I never would have thought about on my own.
It is.
Something that people would ask me. I think, you know, starting with my family, you know, I think also says a lot about me. So asking about maybe like my relationship with my mom or my relationship with my brother, my dad, like, you know, kind of like just, and that's simple, right? But starting those conversations like around family kind of bring a lot, because I don't necessarily talk about my family as openly, even to, you know, some of my friends. And so being able to dig into that really opens up a lot about me as a person, who I am, why I move the way I move. And yeah,
You know,
they've completely shaped me.
I'm interested to, you know, a lot of times we go through these podcasts, we get these great strategies, but then we're left with like, I really would like to know that person, or I would want to sit down with that person. If somebody was to sit down with you for, I don't know, 30 to 60 minutes, what would they gain? How would they feel? And what is the experience that you would want to leave them with?
Um, well, from what people tell me, you know, I think people say that I'm very much of a light energy. You know, there's not much heavy about me as a person. And so like I want that to be felt for other people. Um Again, like I feel for people, right? And so that looks like a lot of different things, but I think that will always come up in the conversation of like how I'm feeling for people. The things I care about, obviously, like our community, like our progression of our community. I do this work, you know, for my family, but ultimately, like what is, you know, the legacy and what's the impact that I do for the greater community, you know, so that comes up in conversation. But you know, I just like to hang out too.
For sure.
I really just like to hang out. I don't even know what to tell you, Cal. But I do feel like people will, from what people say, is a breath of fresh air. You know, like I'm easy to talk to. I feel like I'm cool. Some people say I'm, you know, like I'm a cool person. Um, but what would they get? I love fashion, you know, I love a look. So like I'm definitely like a lot of times people come to me for like style inspiration and like tips of what to wear too. So I don't know.
No, for sure.
If
it's
y'all want to hang out with me, call me.
no,
Pull up to Atlanta.
or it's this conversation. I feel a lot of um, people that are still listening in, that want to take a leap, that want to take a jump. They want to do something different in their life, and they recognize that something needs to change. And we all know that nothing changes until something changes.
Yeah.
If you were to break down your story, your life, into lessons, what is the most important first lesson for them to learn?
I love that. That's so true. Like nothing changes if nothing changes is, what I always love to say. The first lesson, I think goes back to just knowing our power, right? And knowing our power of creation, knowing our power of like, we have a say, like we get to do this thing however we want to do it. And I think once we take, again, the constraints, the limitations, the bounds off of what can exist, what we can bring into life, is then we're infinite from there.
Mm.
So I think that's the biggest lesson.
In any lesson, there are so many questions. So many questions that people, I literally probably ask myself or God or just my notebook 50 questions a day. What is one
Yeah,
question?
you're good with these questions, Cal.
I try. What is one question in your season that you are in life right now that you're dying to get the answer to?
In this season of my life, like this has been the most peace that I felt. I always wanted to be on to the next, or have like that big break or that big moment, or that big check to come through, or whatever the case may be. And so I was always like a little unsettled, I guess you can say. And so now I don't have everything. I don't have everything figured out, but I'm so grateful. And really now I'm like, this year, I'm like, Lord, what do you want me to give? And how can I give more of that? And also giving it, of course, I will, want some return, but like with no expectation.
Of course.
And it can be anything. Like even with social media, like how can I like speak through this page, even if I don't get the likes that I want and the views, like I want to continuously give what I feel like I am meant to give to whomever is meant to receive it.
Of course. If you were granted anything to give right now, what would it be? You had the resource, you had whatever it was, you were like, God, I want to give this right now to these people for this reason. What would it be for you?
Let's see. I think love is so abstract, but I mean, the greatest gift, you could give, but a tangible gift. And also I would like to say, like, I've also have been thinking about like giving, yes, in my business, but like how do I give to my friends? Like I literally just sent all of my friends, not all of them, but like maybe 10 of my friends like wine glasses, just to say thank you, for how they've been able to support me and show up for me in these years, or congratulations, to let them know like I see them, I see their accomplishments, to giving from a philanthropic standpoint, like giving tithes and offerings, giving 10%. Like, so the giving looks like so many different things. I said, I think before in my life, like I gave, I don't know if I always was a giver. Like, I want that to be my, like, in the essence of me. Like, this is what I do, so ingrained and like hardwired into the person that I am. But to your question, what would I give to someone right now? Cal, you and these questions.
Well,
uh,
I try to show up.
you do. You definitely do your job well. So for people that are like watching and tuning in, know that we're like stumped. There is no pre-interview questions. This is not rehearsed.
None of that.
um I love the work that I'm doing, especially with the schools, and especially with the students, because I know, like, again, if we can get these students sooner, earlier, if we can break down the limitations of what they believe is possible, if they can be exposed to life on a different level, like then we can shift their paradigm so much sooner. Right. And so I would, what I'm giving is what I would continue to give, truly.
No, I love that. It's interesting being in this chair and asking all the questions because those questions aren't being asked back to you. It's kind of like when you ask somebody a good question in private and they're like, "Oh, what about you?" It's like, damn, I was ready for the next question. I was thinking, because I really do, want to reflect on that after this, but I was thinking if I was to give anything, I would want to give belief. Um,
Mm,
you know, anybody that knows me, I'm probably the most optimistic person that I know. Like I really always see the great things in every negative or disappointing situation. And I feel
mhm,
like there's so many people in life, just in general, that just don't believe that things will
yeah,
turn around, that things will get better, that
yeah,
things will, I don't know, move forward wherever you are in life. And
mhm,
if I'm giving something to somebody listening in right now, whether you're watching the live or the recording, I want you to believe in yourself. I want you
mhm,
to believe that your circumstance has nothing on your calling that God has put onto your life. Like what your pain is, your purpose is so much more powerful if you just continue to not take leaps, not take bounds, but just take one step.
mhm.
One step at a time, wake up every single day, and that gives you another chance and another opportunity to figure life out. All right.
I
So,
love
so Blue, we're gonna do something. We're gonna do something. It's a rapid fire exercise. And
it. All these have been rapid fire.
go, go. It's a
I feel
little
like I've been.
it's a little bit easier. So I'm gonna say a word, and you're gonna say the first word that comes back to you, or a quick, 2 to 3 words that comes to you quickly. Okay.
Mhm.
So I'll give you an easy one. Fashion.
I'm gonna say timeless.
Okay. Love.
Mm, I know I'm supposed to be doing this fast. Love, abundant.
Hmm. Impact.
Felt,
Family.
change.
I'm gonna pause there because I feel something. What is a change? I'm gonna ask it differently. What is something that you experienced that you would feel comfortable sharing growing up that when you have your own family one day you would do differently?
Mm. Um, let's see that I would do differently. I, one thing I will say, I admire my mom for, like we all look at our parents and can completely critique and like tear them down just because like we're around them all the time. And so they're the easiest targets around us.
I would.
When I look back on life, I'm like, man, she really did give her all,
Mm,
you know? And she really gave me the belief, gave me a foundation to believe and to go for it, which I'm so grateful for. Because I wouldn't be able to do the things that I do if it wasn't for my mom. But if there was anything that I could change within my family, I would, hmm, I have that spark, but I want everyone to have that spark
that's good.
of belief, right? And so I think, there's power in affirmations and speaking to everyone's gifts, and everyone's gifts look different,
Mm,
and not not making sure that there's no judgment, there's no comparison, that everyone has like the space to create, to be and become, um, without the pressure.
Of course. I think a lot of times circumstance gives us that spark. When I first moved to Charlotte, what was this, almost 5 years ago, I had nothing. It was me, my son. He was, wow, one at the time. And we were living in a friend of mine's extra bedroom on an air mattress with absolutely nothing. And I think looking at him one night and just recognizing that what I wanted my story to be wasn't the reality, that was the only spark that I needed. And I think a lot of times, even looking at my parents growing up in the environment that they grew up in, that was the spark that they needed. But I hate that these traumatic experiences or environments create some people's spark. I wish that all people had that spark. So I guess the question that I'd love to hear from you is, what gave you that spark and what continues to keep that spark alive?
Mm-hmm. I think initially the spark, and I kind of, alluded to it earlier. So, yes, like my mom, I guess, is the foundation for me, for being bold and speaking, but also in being a dreamer. And she had a business, but so often she would like yell out in the kitchen, and she's so dramatic. I'm like, girl, where's your inside voice? But she would say, she was yell out like, I'm a raisin. Basically referring to like, I'm a raisin in the sun. A dream deferred is like a raisin in the
That's
sun.
good. That's good.
And there were so many dreams and things that she wanted to bring to life, a lifestyle that she wanted to create for herself and for us, that she wasn't able to.
Mm,
Right. And she did her best. She gave us our best, but it still wasn't, you know, her full vision actualized.
mm.
And, seeing that as a child, hearing that as a child is like, that's one thing I never, I don't want that to be my story.
Of course.
I, want to go for it, to go for it all, to say that I gave it my best, that I gave everything that I had within me. And so, um, yeah, that's why I always say, like, I can deal with the failures. I can deal with, the inevitable things that come along this journey, but I can't live with the regret of looking back on life and second guessing, what could I have been, what could I have done. And so that's always the reason why I act and I show up, and also realizing that these decisions not just impact me, but as my kids and my kids' kids, and their experience of life. And so again, I get to choose, and I get to be in control of that creation and in control of that narrative.
No, I love that. Anybody listening right now, I need you to ask Michelle questions because, I can keep coming up with questions, but this is for you all.
Don't give me cows questions, y'all.
This is for you all. So if you have comments, if you have questions, if you have reflections in regards to all of the different things that she's presented tonight, I want you to be able to present them, and I want you to be able to comment them. Whatever platform it is that you guys are on, whether it's Facebook, whether it's the LinkedIn platform or the YouTube platform, don't be shy to ask your question. Get the information and get the keys that you need to be able to unlock doors that have been locked for so long in your life. All right. One of the things that you said earlier, Michelle, is, in the rapid fire exercise, I said fashion and you said timeless.
Mhm.
What is one aspiration that you have in life that will allow you and your creation to be timeless?
For me to be timeless. Again, I told y'all I don't want cows questions. I need y'all to ask me some questions. um, but I think with having people in mind, right? And understanding what people need and being able to speak to them and being able to provide value does allow me to be timeless in, the work, and making sure that it's felt even beyond, when I leave this world, right? Transition off of this plane. They people always say, People will remember how you made them feel, or they may not remember what you said, but they will always remember how you made them feel. And
Yeah.
so that feeling is timeless. And that feeling transcends me, transcends my time and space. And so that's what, I would say I would want me to be, how I would want to be timeless and be remembered as timeless.
No, I love that. And with anything that you're trying to leave behind, you're going to need some type of plan. And I know you're an expert in helping people create a strategic plan that allows them to get results. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that looks like and give one step that somebody could take with starting to create this strategic plan?
Yeah. I guess today, March 1st, I think they say like maybe 88% of people have abandoned their like New Year's resolutions and New Year's goals at this point, right?
It's crazy.
Isn't it's like a crazy statistic. And so even with the goal, like that's like not enough.
Yeah.
And so often we already know what we need to do, right? But one tip that I would share, and I love this book and I love this resource. It's called the 12-week year,
Yes.
right? So if you're not familiar with it, it essentially breaks up a year by quarter, right? So every 12 weeks, you have a new year. And this is perfect because typically we will waste time essentially. But if we put an end mark at the end of every 12 months, it requires us to move with a little bit more urgency, and we can see the goal line, right? And so now we're showing up each and every day. Every day matters, every week matters. And it allows you to break the goals down into bite-sized pieces so that you're not overwhelmed. And so being able to make it realistic, being able to set a goal that is time bound, but like that's not too far removed from you, right? Let's make it real. Let's put it again, 12 weeks, and you know what exactly you need to be doing in these days, in these weeks, because it all compounds to get you to your goal. And so I think that strategy has been really good for me personally. I actually write down, okay, what are my top 3 goals? And what are the strategic action items or the action plans of action that I need to do every day to make sure that this goal is fulfilled by the end of the 12 weeks.
That's good.
And so, that's a little preview of like how I would break down the planning for people. Because again, we all have goals. It's not about the goal. We all want the same things actually, but it is in the small, consistent actions and the showing up that's what's going to make the difference. So, and that's what I support people in is in those small, consistent actions. How do you show up in your highest? How do you show up at your best despite some of the dream killers that come up, right? The fear, the procrastination, the self-doubt, the imposter syndrome that we all deal with.
I'm definitely going to be, for any of our listeners right now, I'm going to be putting that link in the description once this is aired. It's the 12-week year, the 12-week year by Brian Moran and Michael Lennington. Okay. So I'm going to be putting that in there. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to reach out to both of those authors and we're going to see if we can bring them on here to the Writers Game podcast and talk to them about this 12-week year plan and potentially get some copies for you all that are listening in. So I want to provide space for any questions. Put your comments, put your questions in the chat because I can keep the questions flowing. But what I want to do is manage time. I want to be mindful of our time this evening. Michelle, if you had one message for every single person in the world, this would reach every single heart, would empower every single soul, and would set the foundation for people to build the dream life that they truly envision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would ask, what is not going for your dream costing you? Everything comes with a cost. And so, we always say no decision is a decision in itself. And so, think about that. What is not going for the dream? What is it costing you? What is it costing your family? What is the impact What is it costing the lives and the people you're meant to impact around you? Because not going forward isn't free.
There it is. There it is. Michelle, where can we find you? And how can we support you and all of the different things that you have going on?
Yes. So, I mean, I would love to support you all. If you're looking for the inspiration, if you're ready to take those leaps in life, then, definitely follow along on Instagram at the Michelle Blue, as well as The Journey with Blue. And you can find my website at thejourneywithblue.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Michelle Blue. I'm trying to think. I make it pretty easy for you. I'm Michelle Blue across all channels.
Anybody listening in right now, take the leap. Take the leap. The leap starts with you making the decision, right? With you making the decision. And a lot of us, we make decisions and then we try to figure out what are the resources that are going to help support the decision, whether it's time, whether it's money, whether it's relationships. But what we want you to do tonight is make the decision, allow God to help you with all of the other things that stop us from being able to transform our lives. So I want you to make the decision first. Are you ready to take the leap? It's really just simply comment either 1 or 2. 1 is yes, 2 is no, right? So just say yes before you even think about anything else. And now it's up to you to be able to trust someone that can give you the strategic plan. Trust someone that can be able to help you uncover the reasons why you're still in the same position. Trust someone that can help you gain the clarity that you need to be able to maximize your life, to create the impact and make the money doing what you love this year. Trust someone to be able to help you transform through understanding the steps to help you overcome any blocks, any barriers, any hurdles in your life. Trust that person. And that person is our guest tonight. Guys, this has been another episode of the Writers Game Podcast, and we will see you guys next episode. Peace.